Hey guys, I hope you guys are all well. Hope you had a wicked week, a brilliant week, and looking forward to like the week ahead and also looking for the months ahead. Now, I brought you this video because I just wanted to make a little talk about the Saturn square Uranus and also the Jupiter in Pisces, which is re-entering Pisces. Now, these are not making like big, tight, challenging conversations at all. It's just that I thought it was a little bit important because, when Jupiter re-enters Pisces, which is going to be this month, it's going to be for like 2 months. It's going to be at the last degree, so 28, 29 degrees. So all like the mutable signs will be feeling this. Pisces, Gemini, Virgo, and Sagittarius are all going to be feeling this. And, of course, you four are going to be going through it. It doesn't feel like it's going to be in a bad way. It's just going to feel like it's going to be in a way that you're going to have to sort of end things, but also there's like a new beginning. When when Jupiter's in Pisces, it really enhances all those Pisces qualities and Pisces elements. The card that we have for this is the 9 of Cups, which is a lovely card. It's a card of wishes, dreams, some things that you're like, you're wishing on a star. You're hoping for things to happen. But again, because it's Jupiter, we can overexpand ourselves and wish beyond our capabilities. And this card is about its goodness. It's, there's multiple things that we want. And when it does come, it's just like, I can't believe it's happened. It's like, it's a psychic card. But there is a little message with this because it's such a beautiful card. There's a message that being careful what you wish for, because it definitely can happen. And it's not about what you speak, because obviously our words are very powerful. It's also about our mind and our thoughts. And I personally am very mindful of what I'm taking in and what I'm thinking. When Jupiter entered Pisces like last year, we all saw what the whole expansion was. Some of us went back to going back to spiritual work. Some of us went back to really checking our egos, clearing our egos, checking in on our emotions, and ending like a cycle. But now it is ending a cycle, because Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. And whenever Pisces action happens, we can see that, okay, we're ending a cycle, but when it goes back into Aries, we're beginning a whole new 12-year cycle. But obviously, if you are Pisces, Sun, Moon, or Rising, you're going to feel this. You're beginning a 12-year cycle. And me personally, I don't think it matters if you are... I don't really think it matters whatever it squares, conjuncts. I just feel that if you're progress sun, moon, or rising, this is going to be a brand new cycle that's going to be happening for you. So what have we learnt? What have we come towards? Because this whole is just catching up to the ending of this karmatic cycle, should I say? And it ends in December. Even though when it does go back in, it's still going to be retrograde, and it's going to go direct. And after then it comes out in December the 21st. And when it does go back, it's a time for us to relearn or check in to what spiritually, highly emotionally, what it is that we are feeling, because this is a sign that is feeling. Pisces is a sign that is very underrated, especially when they're going to the higher vibration, they can really shine. And when Jupiter goes there, things can really enhance and shine on the brilliance of them. But obviously, because it is co-ruled by Jupiter, it is a Neptune sign as well. So we can see where we actually are deceiving ourselves, where we actually are putting blessings, where we're actually not really, are we actually putting the work in? It's not been an easy time for some of us when Jupiter's been in Pisces, because, you know, with this the whole new world that we're in, there are new beginnings that has happened for all of us on a, you know, let's just be honest, on a worldly scale. And, you know, the year actually started, you know, even though whenever a new decade begins, it does really start. You know, I've always believed that the year actually starts in 20, like when it's a one, like, you know, 20, when it was 2001, 1981. And, but I personally now see that the decade actually begins when it's the first year, like 2020, 1990, 1980, 90, because that sort of sets the tone of what's going to be coming. And when it did begin, we had Jupiter, which was in Capricorn, and then it went to Aquarius. And so these three last signs, they sort of like are showing us what is actually ending and also what's going to be beginning, because they also pass the baton on to each sign. And Pisces has been the last. I don't know if you guys have felt this, but also whenever the sun, whenever any planets go into Capricorn, Pisces, and Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces, it always feels like something is going to be, something grand's going to be happening. I feel like I felt that during 2020, because that was our spiritual awakening. You can call it the New World Order, but it actually was. A lot happened then. Going from a cardinal to a fixed, now to a mutable. So these three signs have really set the tone of what is sort of to come. So yeah, you know, it's like this chance to like revisit and go back. You know, if you have tried, because remember, Pisces is a sign that is not, let's just be real, it's not a sign that is, you know, it has no boundaries. It lets things in, it lets people in. It's about no race, no culture. And with Jupiter ruling that as well, it is about all of these things: race, culture, religion, churches, you know, you could say astrology, but also it is about publishing. And there may have been this whole delusionment with all of these. Like, we believed that it was going to work and it didn't really actually work. Then we got a shock. And now it's in Aries. It's like, let's just start this beginning. You know, let's just open our eyes. It's not all to say that Jupiter in Pisces is not bad. It's not bad. It's just making us be in touch, like emotionally in touch with all these Jupiter things and all these Piscean things. So when it goes back in there in October, until, even though it's going to be retrograde, it's just checking in. It's just checking in. It's about looking at what you wanted to actually really do, what you actually wanted to seek, what you actually wanted to believe, what you actually wanted to, you know, are you listening to yourself on a really, truly basis, like your intuition? And it's an end of a karmatic cycle again, you know, until we revisit this in 12 years' time. So when we go back in 12 years' time, it's like, oh, actually, I wanted to do this, and I'm glad I actually done it. Some of you may have started to be very creative, because it did actually have a beautiful conversation with Uranus. So there was a lot of times where some of us actually were very inspired. Some of us were actually quite lazy, you know, especially when it transited your first house in any way, sun, moon, or rising, progressed. Some of us gained weight. You know, it's normal. You know, you enjoy what you're eating. So what? You know, some of us may have not been as ambitious as we wanted to be. And so what? You know, this was a time of stillness, you know, wishing on a huge star of stillness to see what comes in. And when it goes into Aries, we can begin. You know, so now it's coming back, checking in. Did you actually do it? Was you going to do it? You know, let's just start it now. You don't have to push yourself, but because our dreams are going to be expanded, guys. And I think sometimes we actually forget that. There's a lot that's gone on in the world why this has happened. A hell of a lot that's gone on in the world. And some of us may have not wanted to believe it. We want to live in this dream world, this dreamlike state. But when it went into Aries, it was like, oh, okay. This is real. This is really real. Pisces is also a sign that, like I said, it's underrated because there's so much bubbling under the surface that we don't want to see, that we want to live in this dream world. But once that veil is taken off, because we have to also remember with Jupiter conjunct Neptune as well, which was real, you know. And I've said this before, we're going to see a lot of Pisceans, Sun, Moon, Rising progress, going to be up there now, up in, whether it's the media, inventing things, being the most creative. We're going to see a lot more of these people out there, you know. If you've, especially, and I feel that we have seen a lot of it already, especially because Neptune's in the sign for yonks. It's been like for thousands of years. We're going to see a lot more because there's some people that are born in late degrees Pisces. They're going to be also coming through. So, yeah, just checking in, guys. And some of you may feel it's like this last chance Harvey type of thing. It's really not. It's just, if you didn't do it, now may be the time that you can just dip your toe in it. Because remember, this is water. When we come to the Saturn square Uranus, this happened 3 times last year. We had this actual conjunction happened in Sagittarius and in 1988. And, you know, the 80s was a time, especially from the beginning of 1980, especially you 1980s babies, early, if you were like Pluto in Libra, 72 to 1984, you know, a lot of you guys will remember this. A lot of you came up of age in the 90s. But anyway, I'll talk a bit about that later. But this conjunction happened in the late 80s, and the 80s wasn't it had flashes of brilliance, definite flashes of brilliance, but it also had a lot of turbulence. And the turbulence actually happened from the 70s and going into the 80s. It carried on. And in this country, we had the Tory government, okay? We also had the miners' strike in 84. So we may be feeling those, especially if any of you guys are Gen Xers, if you are, even not just Gen X, if you like Pluto and Virgo, Pluto Leo, Pluto Virgo, even Pluto Cancer, you guys will remember this. There's a lot of turbulence in the 70s. There's a lot going on. But also out of that came brilliance of creativity, of starting things, starting businesses. Uranus is about rebellion. It's a very quick planet. It's sudden shocks, sudden beginnings and endings. It is about, you know, it's electricity. So anything that it touches, something can happen, and it can be very shocking. It could be very, you know, like, wow, what was this? But on a personal level, when it touches you, it could bring a lot of, you know, individualistic leanings of doing something very crazy and avant-garde. And, you know, that's why it's ruled by Aquarius, because that's the high vibration of Aquarius. It actually does things that are very different. You may not understand what they're doing, but you understand afterwards, especially when it comes very futuristic. You know, it's ruled by Aquarius, and it's funny because we had the Saturn square Uranus, which was the other way around in the late, was it the noughties, when we had Saturn was in Taurus and Uranus was in Aquarius. Okay, and God knows what happened then. No, that was wrong. We had the Saturn and Jupiter, Yes, we had the Saturn. No, we did have that. Sorry, we did have that. My mind's, I don't know, we're in Mercury retro. No, we come out of Mercury retrograde, but yeah, my mind's still in. But yeah, it was the other way around. Okay, it was the other way around. But once again, it was, again, quite turbulent. And again, with Uranus, it brings that whole sudden change. But what Saturn brings is it brings structure. So even though we are going to be changing everything every day and things that are happening within our lives, when it comes to like money, finances, agriculture, what we're eating, things to do with like our body, especially with being in Taurus, which it actually feels very uncomfortable. And also, let's not forget the whole standards of beauty. It's not going to be the traditional how things should look. It's going to be an everyday beauty, or it's going to be forced to be an everyday different types of standards of beauty and how we look when it comes to fashion, when it comes to makeup, also when it comes to creativity. There's going to be lots of sudden bursts of creativity, and I feel that a lot of us have seen it now. We're going to be wanting to be working for ourselves and being entrepreneurs, being our boss. And that's what Uranus is about, doing something for the self, but also coming together with an organization, with a group standing. And with Saturn being in Aquarius, like I said, it's funny because it's like the other way around. But with Saturn being in Aquarius and with this square, it's okay. It's like the conversation is like, okay, we're going to be changing this, but also let's restructure it. Although we're going to go a bit crazy and just run with it, we can also make sure that we complete our creativity. We're going to also make sure that the standard of beauty is going to be staying here. We're going to also be seeing that when it comes to what we're eating, food, and we're going to be growing food in our garden. Are we going to be really taking care of ourselves? It's not about going back to the past, it's about moving forward. It's going to be very uncomfortable for a lot of us. So a lot of us, we don't like change. We resist change. But change is here now. Change is here. We're in a new era, a new dawn, as the Queen Nina Simone would say. The cards that we have for this is the Fool card and also the World card, because the World card is Saturn, the Fool card is Uranus. So we're going on a brand new journey, guys. We're going on a brand new journey. We are ending a old cycle. We are beginning a new one. I feel with this, because this happened 3 times last year, but it's still playing up now. It's still going to be playing up until next year. It obviously look where Saturn is and look where Uranus is in your chart, but also look where Aquarius is. Look where Taurus is, because that's also going to be highlighted. I know for me, like 20 years ago, Jesus Christ, when it happened, it was, it was the other way around. So I did see, Saturn, I got Taurus in my 11th, and I've also got Aquarius in my 9th. So there was a whole change that happened when it came to my friendships and my goals, and also when it came to my belief system, when it came to things and what I believed in with the law and publishing and, all these things, spirituality. And I did meet a lot of people that were from different cultures as well. But because it's the other way around now, I'm going to be seeing those similar themes. So you could even look back, guys, and see that these themes will be quite similar, just that it's the other way around. So, we can see some of the things. It's not necessarily the exact same thing. It may feel a bit like a deja vu moment of what happened 20 years ago. Remember, this cycle did start in 1988. It will begin a brand new cycle in 2032 in Gemini. So I feel that the people that really benefited from this cycle were the Gen X kids. So people that were born in 1965 to 1969, they really benefited. In this country, actually, a lot of the Gen X's were teenagers in the 80s. And even when I was listening and reading about them, especially that when they got successful, a lot of them really struggled in the 80s. And when this conjunction happened, which was in Sagittarius, that's when they sort of like blew up, because a lot of this generation are Pluto in Virgo. So like Kurt Cobain, Nirvana, he came out of that whole grunge theme he started off in the late 80s and it exploded in 91. And then in this country we have like a lot of bands like Oasis, Suede. They were like at the big forefront. Also, who else? We have, yeah, it was called Britpop in this country. So a lot of the Britpop bands were Gen Xers who were born in the 60s, who were teenagers in the 80s and made it in the 90s. Another themes that we saw in those days as well, especially like in 93, I remember Puff Daddy, he actually started Bad Boys Records in 93. A lot of things happened. A lot of things started in 93. A lot of things began, a lot in terms of like fashion, creativity. So if this generation really suffered in the 80s or were trying to make waves in the 80s, because a lot of them actually started things in the 80s, they saw the fruits of their benefits in the 90s. So that's one of the reasons why you hear, or if you heard about them, then you'll still remember them now, because it was their time. Even though the conjunction squared, because they're Pluto in Virgo, it squared them. Squares do actually make you push ahead. It makes you actually, yes, you suffer for your art, but you also can make waves. You can make history even. You saw a lot of that. And yeah, we're going to start seeing, I gone off one because, as you guys know, I love generations. That's my thing. So yeah, it was actually a good thing. And also this is going to also show us with this conjunction that, yes, a lot of us will struggle. We'll have to live off less. We're not going to be able to buy that the designer clothes, or because we're in air era. Air era is not about that. Obviously, if you're not a Libra, but it's not about having like living our lives through celebrity. It's living our lives through real people. And I feel with this closing conjunction, which will be until 2032, because we're going to start a brand new one in Gemini, we're going to start seeing people really branching out, really pushing themselves forward, doing something brand new. Yes, struggling, but also if you're passionate about it, you still can make something of yourself. And it's about working hard but smart. It's not about pushing yourself to the brink, and then you can't cope, because Uranus also is about our nervous systems. It does rev it up. It can make us very anxious. Anxiety is gonna be a big thing anyway, because of the Saturn Jupiter conjunction in Aquarius. The mental health is a big thing as well. So a lot of these themes could definitely be coming up. But if we're passionate about what we want to produce, what we want to do, we can see a lot of gains and a lot of benefits. I feel that when it goes into Gemini in 2032, the next generation that will definitely greatly benefit will be the Pluto in Libra, 1971, 72 to 1984. And also the Pluto in Sagittarius generation, 1996 to 2000, or 95, should I say, to 2008. These two generations will greatly benefit because we're in air era. This air era is going for the next 800 years, guys. Okay, so if you benefited in the past, which a lot of generations did, it's now going to close, and we are actually now in the air era, and it will progress to the next 800 years. And we can only imagine what can happen when it goes into Gemini in 2032. 2032 is not a long time, guys. It's really not a long time. It is soon. Okay, so are you guys ready? We can only imagine what will happen with the media. We can only imagine what will happen in how we communicate, our neighborhood, relationships with our siblings, short distance travel. We can only imagine when it comes to traveling, daily transport. It's a brand new time. But these two generations will benefit because they are, especially like next year, that we're going to be seeing them implementing changes for mankind. So yes, it does feel a highly anxious time because we don't know where we're coming or going, but it is a time that change is imminent. It's definitely something we cannot go back to with this Saturn square. But also, if we try, let's try to look on the bright side, we can see beauty coming out of this. Again, it's really great because I think I've said this before. I think a lot of astrology and tarot said this: creativity is our king and queen. You know, if we are creative in anything, in any field, this I feel will save us. Doesn't matter if you're doing tarot or astrology, if you are an artist, if you are learning a new skill, if you are a writer, if you are uh, any type of artist, any type of thing. If you like paint and decorate, if you anything like that, guys, it's just going to carry us forth. And if you are even thinking or even scared of being, of doing working for yourself, I think a lot of us are, because it doesn't feel very stable. It's very rocky at the moment. I think once we plunge into it, we're going to see a lot of benefits too. So yes, it does feel very much like a strange time, what's happening. But yeah, it's all about change, guys. And with Jupiter and Pisces ending its cycle, with this Saturn square Uranus ending its cycle, it's just, what can we actually do? What can we actually believe in, and what can we actually create? Because it does feel, the list does really feel endless. So yeah, that was, more or less my 2 cents worth on this. And I just felt like I had to say, I was going to do like a separate video, but, Spirit was telling me, just combine these two energies together. So yeah, guys, feel free, to let me know how these, this has been for you. Feel free to let me know how, how things have been in general, especially with these squares. And, guys, you can look back on how these squares have been from like the late 80s till now. What has started brand new, what has transpired, especially if you're old enough to remember it too. So yeah, that was, again, my 2 cents worth. Feel free to let me know in the message box. And again, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. And yes, I will speak to you guys soon. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.